Dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yup, what's good, original crew, man? We back. New tier list. This time we got the dog tier list. Don't hate on my parade. Hey, man, with that being said, hey, the tier list has been lit so far. You know what I'm saying? First week we had lizard. Last week we had snake. This week we got the dog.
We got the dogs.
Move right along, man. What's your favorite breed of dogs, C? You got one?
I have a couple. So I like Dachshunds. I like Corgis. I like Pits. Or American Bulldog, whichever one you wanna. But and my baby breed, which is
all over the place.
It's
all over the place, man.
And I also like German Shepherds as well, because I grew up with one.
No, your daddy told you now.
No, that was a Rottweiler. No, that was a whole different story. Actually, I grew up. Let me say this other breed I grew up with too that I really like. I like Huskies as well. My auntie used to have one, but anyway,
we had a husky. We had a miniature husky,
and she was the sweetest dog.
We had a plethora of dogs growing up. You know what I'm saying? We have.
Yeah, I have a few. I have quite a few. Like growing up, like in my household, no, because my mom is terrified of dogs. But growing up, I was around dogs because my auntie loved dogs. So that's how I was like introduced to a lot of breeds.
All right. So with that being said, before we get into this one, make sure you check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go, man. You want the first part, you have to do it. Check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's video,
like it with a thumbs up.
We'll highly appreciate it, man. But let's go. Let's check it out. Let's see what's about. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's go.
This episode was sponsored by Audible.
Play of the game.
I've made it pretty clear that I see house cat.
Did he sacrifice? Cause there was another. And he ran that one over.
And got away.
To sacrifice, because that was the smaller one. He sacrificed the smaller one.
So he could get away.
Or was he like, hey, they gonna get you, you little. Let me go ahead and kill you before they
But then some of them went after him. So was it even... Hey.
Well, then they stopped, didn't it?
I thought two of them went.
I've made it pretty clear that I see house cats and domestic dogs as top tier. But although I've made videos already on the non-domestic felines, I haven't done the same for canines yet. Canines are some of the most successful builds ever, despite being relatively new to the competitive scene. They debuted in the Oligocene expansion, but they really hit their stride in the Miocene, because the devs nerfed the dominant herbivore factions that had previously been untouchable. Canines had great matchups against the new, less tanky herbivores like deer, cows, and horses, and so canines were able to expand from North America and become a part of the meta on every single server other than Antarctica. But enough about the patch notes, let's get back to present day. All canines may seem similar, and they are, but there are some awesome, unique attributes and abilities that are worth discussing, as well as some misconceptions worth dispelling. So without further ado, let's get into it. So one of the key components to a successful canine build is team play. Hunting in packs and having a defined social structure turns what normally would be a pretty average build into a truly dominant one. And so the dogs that are the lowest on the tier list are of course going to be the ones that don't do this or do this poorly. At the bottom of the tier list we have the maned wolf. Now it's hard to look at this build and not think, wow, that's really cool. The maned wolf is the tallest canine in the current expansion, which gives it a bonus against stealth because it can see over tall grass. It's also the only one with a mane, a rare attribute that's usually only seen on lions and horses. And while manes do provide some protection against critical hits, it doesn't do much else. The maned wolf is also the biggest outlier of the dog faction in that it has a completely solitary playstyle. As a result, it doesn't have near the same PvP potential that the more social dogs do. Despite being the tallest of canines, it has to settle for hunting small targets. Since those aren't a very good source of XP, it actually has to make up for it by eating a lot of plants and fruit. It's good that it's omnivorous, as being able to function as a scavenger is great, but there's no ignoring that this build could have a much higher potential if it utilized team strats. One step up on this list and we have the Coyote, or for the non-American players, the Jackal. A build that honestly just needs a slight buff in order to be really strong, but at the moment isn't in the greatest spot in the meta. Even with solid team plays, Coyotes just don't do enough damage to score eliminations on targets that aren't already super weak. For example, in this clip here, we can see a team of Coyotes diving on this low-level deer player, but they're actually unable to get the pick before the rest of the deer team rallies and chases them off. If Coyotes were to spec into some longer, more dagger-like teeth, I could see them being better suited for this, but for now, they just aren't threatening enough. They tend to have
I didn't know that. I always was afraid of coyotes. Every time they be like, it's a coyote around, they be like, be careful. I be like, shit, I ain't trying to get it.
I've never been scared of coyote.
Bruh, she do all this big ass capping on this damn video. Man.
I be playing.
If y'all ever catch, bruh, she'll run from the smallest fucking thing, bruh.
No, I won't.
Yeah, you have. You done ran from shit.
I just don't like
I think it's some
bugs.
over there in that bush.
I just don't like bugs.
You don't even know what be in the bush. You just be ready to take off.
But no, I was just playing. I used to be scared of them too, because they always used to say that. Like,
or possibly favorable
It's hard
matchups
to get
against
me.
lynx and bobcat players, but lose hard against cougars. So I think this puts them at the high end of D tier definitively. One step higher and we've got the fox. Now I know most of us are used to seeing fox at the top of most tier lists, but in outside they're a lot more balanced. They have extremely similar base stats to coyotes, but also have a few unique abilities of their own. They've got extremely strong perception abilities that allow them to deal with stealth strategies employed by their targets. And their precision pounce attack is extremely useful for picking off targets that they discover hiding under the snow. Some foxes have also spec'd into climbing abilities, which is really useful for getting out of reach of the more powerful players. While their higher agility can help them avoid land predators, their smaller size does make them a target for raptors, so it's a bit of a trade-off. Coyotes and foxes both utilize team play, but in a very disorganized fashion. Unlike the higher tier builds, they don't have an established pecking order or coordinated strategies. They sort of just band together and use numbers to their advantage. Sort of like social spiders, which I cover in my spider video. Next up, we've got the wolf. The wolf is one of the cornerstones of the
Oh, we skipping B?
maybe
You gonna
it's an
skip B?
accident.
Nah.
Oh.
Hey, the wolf. I'd rather deal with a fox than a wolf any day.
You rather deal with a fox than a wolf? Oh, most definitely. Oh yeah.
I thought so. Looking at
Honestly,
this list, I'd rather
I ain't
deal with
scared
a
of coyotes
coyote.
no more.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, hey, coyotes.
Look, I'm just
we-
playing.
if
I'm
we-
still
if-
scared.
Nah, if we piled up together, they scary as a motherfucker.
I'm gonna be scared of you too. We just gonna be running from each other.
No, I said if we pile up together, we can scare off a coyote.
You may meet that one. Like, fuck all y'all. No.
I've been
I
watching
ain't
tier
gonna try.
lists.
And pioneered the technique that most pack hunting builds use today. The wolf hunting technique has been dissected and analyzed to an incredible degree. So here's a rundown of the strat plus a few tips on how to counter it. The basic wolf strat is a 5-step plan that utilizes every ability in the wolf's arsenal, and it goes like this. Step 1 is locating the target. Wolf players will use perception abilities like smell, sound, and footprint tracking to locate a potential bounty. Once found, they gather the pack and move on to step 2. In step 2, all wolves go into stealth mode and attempt to get as close as possible to the target without alerting it. Once the target detects them, they move on to step 3. Step 3 is the defining moment in the hunt, and the success depends on what the target does here. Once the target detects the wolves, it can either charge, stand, or flee. The wolves will only proceed to step 4 once the target flees. If the target chooses to stand its ground, the wolves must use intimidation abilities like growling and barking in order to reduce the target's resolve. If the intimidation succeeds and the target flees, step 4 is triggered. Step 4 pits the mobility stat of the target against the mobility stat of the wolves. This step is also when the wolves will attempt to isolate the target player from their group if they're in one. If the wolves manage to catch up to the target, the final step begins. Step 5 is the actual attack. Wolves rely on their bite move to inflict damage, and the size of their target determines where they'll try to land a hit. Against midweights, wolves will go for a crit by attacking the throat. If this succeeds, it should result in a one-shot kill. Against heavies, they actually won't go for a crit at all, because heavies can one-shot wolves if they aren't careful. Going for a crit puts them in range of an attack, so usually wolves will opt to attack the hindquarters since it's safer. Since they can't crit by attacking the hindquarters, it generally takes 3 successful bites in order to deal enough damage to inflict the bleed status effect. This drains the target's stamina and health over time, eventually leading to a game over for them. It's awesome that wolf mains have made their
So basically, what I'm hearing is, if you see a wolf, don't run. Stand your ground, cause they ain't gonna chase you. That's what I'm hearing.
You gonna get your ass ate on up, okay? Clean on up.
No, cause they like to hunt, and that's the reason why I feel like they just sit there wait.
But
you
you
be
can't
like,
stand there forever. But this is the thing, baby.
Get big on their ass.
But you can't stand there forever.
They can't stand there forever either.
But then they go. You gonna think they gone? They hiding somewhere.
And I'm gonna step back.
I
I ain't running. I'm stepping back. I'm gonna step back by watching.
Let me just say this. I just hope I don't ever come in, contact with one that I have to remember, like, the
Don't
5
run.
steps.
Bitch,
Fuck
don't
that.
run.
No.
Just know, don't run.
What I'm supposed to do? What I'm supposed to do?
Bitch, skedaddle.
strategy guide available to new players, but doing so also allows players to learn the matchup and develop counterplay options. Here are some of the best ways to combat the 5-step wolf strat. The first is to spec into some high-level stealth abilities. Wolves actually have a relatively weak sense of smell, so camouflage is actually really useful against them. A good stealth player will be able to stop the hunt at step 1. If stealth doesn't work with your build, you can stop the hunt at step 2 by detecting them during their stealth phase. Strong perception abilities will easily cause the wolf's mediocre stealth to fail against you. For example, wolves would pretty much never be able to successfully get within a dangerous range against a giraffe. But if they do manage to sneak up on you, the most important counterplay option is to stand your ground. Wolves will only move to their attack phase if their target opts to flee. A player who opts to defend drastically increases their chances of success, since the wolf's only option at that point is to use its rather weak intimidation abilities. If wolves
I told you.
I told y'all.
I told you, stand your motherfucking ground. Go big on big.
I'm sorry.
I'm
gonna be a bitch and run. I'm like, hell no. I can't.
But they like to hunt down their food.
I just can't let them get them 3 bites.
They like, so they get the 1 bite. Yo, they got me. And they going for 9 times out of 10, they gonna go for their Achilles. You ain't running once they get a hold of that leg. They got my leg.
Okay. Stand my ground. Go big on them.
Go big on big, bro. Mm-hmm. They bought, bitch.
Yep.
Bitch. So it was a motherfucker, bitch.
Okay. Yep.
I'm gonna see your ass to the upper. Keep fucking with me. Soon the motherfucker come up on you.
Yep.
Mace that hoes.
Okay.
Mace that hoe. Shh. We all call. Can you call? No, it's bitch.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
She carry around with Mace.
since the wolf's only option at that point is to use its rather weak intimidation abilities. If wolves had access to roar, like lions and tigers do, they'd be really tough to deal with. But since they don't, it's pretty easy to resist the intimidation attempts, especially in a group. In fact, a heavy player can end the encounter pretty quickly by using their own intimidation abilities, like charge. So even though wolves do have a pretty solid offensive strategy, players with good fundamentals and matchup experience will be able to thwart their plans most of the time. And so wolves, much like birds of prey, function as the gatekeepers to the higher tier, and are placed solidly in A tier. The highest ranked canine build, other than domestic dogs of course, which I've already covered in another video, is the African Painted Hound. This build follows a very similar strategy to the wolf, but has stats and abilities much better suited for it. Its higher stealth allows it to get closer before being detected, and its higher speed reduces the chance that its target outruns it. Their sharper teeth deal more damage, and their highly sophisticated social structure is actually built around propping up the weaker members, rather than simply funneling the best loot to the highest ranking members. Considering that these players succeed in a meta that contains some of the most powerful builds in the game,
Look at his bitch ass.
that African Painted Hounds are top tier. If you'd like to learn more about how canines evolved to become some of the most successful builds of all time, I highly recommend the book How to Tame.
What was it called?
The African.
What you doing with them? What you doing with them?
If I'm in Africa, I'm keep it on me. Keep it on me. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep it on me. That's why they be like, come to Africa. Hell no.
Well, I won't have to worry about them too much, you know?
Y'all got too much shit running around this bitch.
I ain't gonna have to worry about them. I just gotta remember the 5 steps. Go big on them. Stand my ground.
With those?
No, with the wolves.
Where you going for the wolves though? You like, I never know.
You never know. I'll
This is
come in
America.
contact with.
This is America.
You never know. You know what I'm saying?
You might go up to Alaska one day.
You never know. What the only thing I have to really worry about is a fox
What does the
and
fox say?
a coyote. That's the only thing I really have to worry about.
Around here, yeah.
And
Foxes are way more like common than coyotes.
Mhm.
You see coyotes
Every
a little
boo-boo.
bit, you know what I'm saying? But foxes are way more common nowadays.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But damn, he should have talked about the domestic house dog. Them bitches, what I supposed to do when them bitches come charging?
But they in
at me?
another video.
What I do when them bitches come charging at me?
Stand your ground.
Hell no.
Go big on them.
I can't go big on the best. Some of them a pit.
That's the thing.
But
I hate the.
But let's be real. Quit acting like I hate the stigma. The stigma is the stigma because it happens.
I mean, it does happen. It does.
What
happen.
you do when a German Shepherd come at you?
Stay your ground. Go big on them.
Go ahead, like you be like, and then when especially when them kids that be working out, what you do?
I mean,
my neighbors used to back home. My neighbors used to
they be training them dogs.
That
to be
motherfucker,
like,
that
and I
motherfucking
hate
dog.
that.
His pit tried to come after me one time. That nigga J Rock, get here, J Rock. I'm like J Rock.
J Rock is oh no.
J Rock had a thick ass neck. He used to have J Rock walking around the yard carrying weights.
That's not right. Well, did he?
It was a show dog. It was one of them show dogs. He didn't use them to like fight. It wasn't one of his fight dogs. He had a couple dogs. He did go to. I'll tell y'all this. He did go to jail for fighting dogs. So you know what I'm saying. But J Rock was one of his show dogs. It was a show pit. That motherfucker would beat. That nigga just sit outside. How the motherfucker carrying weights around. I was like, God damn. Then the motherfucker come after me one day.
What you do?
I froze.
You didn't stay. Okay, you stood your ground. That's
I froze stuck.
But you was standing still.
I really did. And J Rock, motherfucker, you see me every fucking day, bruh.
He just wanted to play.
Nope. I don't play with him. I don't play with him. You stay in your lane, I stay in my lane. That motherfucking charged at me. I said, bro, I don't even know what the fuck. Here he come. J Rock, get over here. J Rock looked at me like, I'm gonna get your ass.
I'm gonna get you tomorrow.
I'm gonna get your ass next time. I said, you old bitch head dog, bro.
I love pizza though.
Bro,
That's all about how you
that
train
joint was
them.
like big, solid as a rock.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the muscles. I used to be like, damn, bro, what if that motherfucker really get after somebody?
Like he tried to get you. Just stand still and hope that the owner's nearby. That's all you can hope for.
Then J. Rock used to have this collar around his neck. I was like, bro, like he had a chain on his neck. Like, nigga, he
Doing too much.
got a little choke on it. You know the choke.
I know what you're talking about.
Hey, man, y'all spread what's up in the comments, man. Y'all let us know y'all thoughts and opinions down below, man. But as always, I do go by the name DJ the Kid. This is
Yeah. Go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my folks. Dollar, 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 dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar, 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 dollar. Let me watch out for